Hello and welcome to the Slow the Fuck Down podcast with Glow London and The Drum. I'm Emma Harris, Chief of Glow London and founder of the Slow the Fuck Down movement. In May 22, I had a completely out of the blue cardiac arrest and the odds of 96-4 surviving unscathed. Since then, I've been committed to sharing the perspective I'm now blessed with, that many of us are wasting the precious time we have on this planet with unsustainable pace and stress. In each episode, I'll welcome some fabulous guests onto the show to share their stories of how slowing down or not has affected their lives, their teams, and their businesses. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Slow the Fuck Down podcast. I'm your host, Emma Harris, and today I'm very excited to be joined by Joe Glover and Lottie Unwin. Today we're going to be talking a lot about communities because Lottie is the founder of Upworld and Brand Hackers, a fearless community builder and marketing strategist, helping ambitious brands and people grow with purpose and personality, it says here. Joe's founder of the Marketing Meetup, podcaster and marketeer on a mission to make the industry kinder, smarter and more human, all while sharing stories from some of the world's top marketing leaders. You've got a podcast as well, actually.
Yes,
You know, so this is like poacher turning gamekeeper, and I feel a bit nervous. But welcome to the show, Lottie and Joe. Thank you for being here. I have to start also by saying I know both of you from the Marketing Academy, which is something we haven't talked a lot about actually on the podcast. If anyone doesn't know the Marketing Academy, shame on you. It's an incredible community of marketers globally. It's a life-changing program that you both went on.
Yeah, it is life-changing.
When did you do it?
I've no idea. Like a
long time ago.
Yeah.
So, Joe, you were the COVID years.
Yeah, 2020. Yeah, so
2020. So were you before that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. I think
And
it was a couple of years before Joe's group.
And part of your journey. So both of
Big
you,
part of my journey.
where we've got a lot of similarities, you both run communities, but you also both used to be in jobs and then jumped out to do this. So I'm really interested to hear about the decisions that led to that change that we'll come to in a minute. But we'll start by asking the question we ask everyone, which is, the world's kind of mad at the moment. Everywhere we look, people are just frazzled and there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of stress. What do you think is causing this? How did we get here? Lottie?
Tech?
That's it. I'll write that down.
Notifications.
It's the notifications.
Yeah. I think it's the being always available thing that's the crux of it. And I don't know whether that's like a personal, like I say that very quickly because that personally feels like so the crux of it. But, you know, you walk down the street on your phone, you wake up and look at your phone, you do your job, as I'm currently proving, like I can do my entire job just on an iPhone. And I think that's good in some ways, but you're never off.
Do you stay on all the time?
Most of the time.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, most of the time.
We'll come back to that,
yeah.
Lottie. Joe, how do you think we've got here?
I think it is the point.
Yeah.
I would build on that to a certain extent to say that tech is the undercurrent to everything else that is going on. And so to give an answer that ChatGPT hopefully couldn't, you know, if I reflect on my own life, then you got kids, you got fitness, you got a job, you got relationships such as, you know, the person that you love most and want to spend your entire life with. And then you've got the undercurrent of tech, which is the sort of being present in those moments and sort of identifying, you know, like there is always something at the back of your mind rather than just having something at the front where you're like, oh, interesting. Even in this conversation, I know that I posted on LinkedIn about half an hour ago. I'm curious. I'm like, how many notifications have I got right now? You know, which sort of sat there and it's like a thing. How many emails do I have right now? Which is wild.
Yeah. I think I have to, because it's me and Joe, I have to say that I think the way society has moved away from community might be underpinning our addiction to tech. Like, yeah, I happen to run a marketing community. to be honest, that could have been anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think my, like, not to be like grandiose about it, but my observation is that we're now in a society that doesn't have the church or like the village hall as the center of the way we live. And that is a big shift. Like, we used to be broadly a religious country that organized ourselves around centers of faith, and that gave people the huge sense of community, and that doesn't exist at all. And so I think a lot of what, like, when I reflect on my career, a lot of the things I've done are just like scrabbling around trying to find that sense of belonging and identity in something, and a place where I felt safe and could like breathe a bit. And I think that that's like the only antidote to tech. Like, those are the spaces where you can be really present, is where you do feel like you belong. And those are the moments where you're like, yeah, cool, my viral LinkedIn post, like I can live, you know, like I can live without knowing how that's doing. I just think like, yeah, hearing Joe talk, I thought it was really important that we kind of mark that if things were better underneath, we would be able to shirk tech more easily.
I completely agree. I mean, it's the reason I wanted you guys on the show, apart from the fact that you're brilliant, because I do feel like what you do is give people a chance to slow the fuck down. And I don't mean literally stop, but you give a lot of the stuff that we preach is what you are encouraging people to do. Connect, learn, be vulnerable, stop, think, do what you live your life in a way that's meaningful.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sad thinking, aren't I sick though? Like, because I want to build community, and everything that as part of the marketing meetup story is true, you know, of wanting to provide a positively lovely space. But there is also an unrelenting part of me which wants to make TMM amazing, you know, and it will consume my thoughts and sit in there. And there is some competitiveness, and like there is a joy and a drive that's sort of found in not slowing down, but also speeding up, you know. And so one can recognize the need to slow down, but also this weird sick desire to speed up in some way or another. And actually, like, you know, I don't want to go so far as to call it succeeding, because I don't think success is having a big old company or anything like that. But there's a drive and a care for this stuff. I
think it's really dangerous to feel like you have to be a bit apologetic about that. Like, no, that's incredible. And that's why shit happens, and why you can impact people's lives. And like, yes, for that drive.
Totally.
And, you know, we talked about this before, Lottie, but that is still slowing the fuck down. So people think slowing the fuck down means being, you know, like the sloth in Zootropolis, but it isn't that. That's not just where you are prioritizing yourself. It's about being aware of why you're doing things. It's about having sort of metacognitive thinking, that I'm not just running at something, because often the reason people are, you know, speeding up is because of the panic, because they're catastrophizing, because they're afraid of not being enough, because a teacher at some point in their lives told them they're a piece of shit and they believe it, and they're trying to prove it, and they're not even aware of that engine. But what you guys are doing is meaningful to you, and it's joy. I'm busy at the moment. I love it. I literally can't wait for Monday mornings, and I'm sure you guys are the same. So as long as it's with that energy, it's absolutely fine. But coming back to the where you're at in terms of pace and stuff at the moment, how are you doing amongst the matters? How you doing? How you doing?
She did it.
That's what I have to do. The
amazing.
How you doing?
I'm really great. Like, really, really great. I've got a baby who's phenomenal and so fun. I love my job. I'm juggling, but I'm juggling between two things I'm obsessed with. And I think everyone always frames it as a hot potato of like hating both parts of your life. And what if everything you do is really lovely, and therefore it's, I love my kid, I love my work, I love exercise and finding time for myself, and I love socializing. And it's all just, how do I somehow like pull the right balance between those four things? So I'm really great. And I think it's sustainable, which for me is a big thing. Like, I had a really rough mental health journey. Like this, the kind of slowing down thing is very topical for me. If I think about like a 5-8 year history of like times where burnout was like not just a kind of millennial buzzword, but like really had me bedridden. So I fully buy into it. And so for me, it's always about slowing the fuck down is like, am I going slow enough that I can keep going at this pace? And like understanding, like, because I think like Joe, like my desire is always like faster, 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 faster. And I kind of love that in myself. So I don't want to temper that, but I just need to make sure I don't like break my ankle.
Yes.
So it's always that balance.
Sophie Devonshire, when she was on the podcast, she talks about velocity, not speed, which is great because speed in itself can run away with itself. Whereas if it's about velocity, it's about the right combination of the pressure that you need and the output that you need. Velocity is almost...
Yeah, and kind of allows for a bit of momentum.
Yeah.
Where like you don't necessarily have to be running for things to be moving really fast.
Yeah.
I think that's an important distinction.
Yeah. We're going to come back to your burnout story. Hold that thought. Joe, how are you doing? And I'm just going to say at this point, one of the things I love most about you, there are many things, is your vulnerability and the way you share about your challenges with your mental health. And it's so inspiring, allows people to feel seen, and it's really brave and brilliant. How are you at the moment? How are you doing?
Bless you. You're very kind. You're so lovely. Well, I think the nice thing when you answer a question like this is when you have a time where you're not feeling great, you have a relative point to sort of come back to and sort of compare, you know, and sort of say, I wasn't great then, but I am now, which is lovely. So, you know, I think in reference to the question, then depression and anxiety was part of my history. You know, still remain on anti-anxiety medicine and stuff like that. So that's a thing. There's probably two answers to the question. There's probably a broader answer in terms of industry stuff, and then there's a more personal answer in terms of how I'm doing. So in terms of industry stuff, like there's definitely, I think, very similar to the tech answer. There's an undercurrent of existential stuff, you know, like wake up this morning, open LinkedIn, first article I see, 65% of marketers predicted to lose their jobs over the next period of time by Mark Ritson, you know, someone I admire, you know, sort of saying stuff like this.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, you know, it's not stuff you want to read. That being said, on a more personal basis, I'm doing good. And really, the word that comes to mind is prioritization. And so I think like all of us, you know, we're sort of in a space of balancing. So balancing kids, balancing being a great husband, balancing fitness, balancing business and stuff like that. And the best example I can give of this is that I went down to a 4-day week when my little girl was born to spend more time with her, which was fabulous. And there was a period of time when I was at my lowest where I started to see other people move faster or grow better or whatever it was. And I started to see the time spent with making that choice as a sacrifice rather than a priority, which was silly, you know, because the word sacrifice says you are losing out because you are not doing this thing. The biggest reframe for me has been priorities. And so two things have happened. My youngest is now 2. And so the world has sort of opened up a little bit because he's a toddler. He doesn't need me in his arms, you know, X amount of hours a day, which is great. But then the second is the mindset shift, which is like, right now I need to prioritize X. So we know that we've got our big conference next week for the marketing meetup. My wife is like the most incredible human being because like she's taking up so much slack right now. But I know in a month's time, the priority will be different and I'll be doing exactly the same for her. So rather than seeing things as a sacrifice, I'm in a place of prioritization. And like, I think that the biggest thing that does is release guilt, you know, because like as an undercurrent to everything as well, if you're feeling guilty about not working because you're parenting, if you're feeling guilty about parenting and not working or whatever it may be, just releasing that guilt and sort of being in a place where it's like, I just need to do what I need to do right now. Whatever that is a nice place to be.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I hope people that are listening are really taking note of that. I talk about guilt a lot and how it lays heavy. Totally. It weighs heavy. It for parents, I think, especially, but for, you know, guilt of letting people down, and a lot of it doesn't exist. It's based on, not saying the feeling doesn't exist, and I'm not negating people's emotions, but often that guilt is based on a version of some kind of reality that isn't it doesn't exist. You're imagining, like when I flew home from Chicago a week before my cardiac arrest, because I was imagining my kids starving, and actually they were with their grandmother living their best life because she's got no boundaries whatsoever. And I could have just gone to New York and given myself those 2 days on my own, but no, I had to do 2 long haul flights in 36 hours and rush. And so guilt makes us, belief makes feelings, makes behaviors, makes outcomes. So we're driven by whatever it is we believe to be true, and often it's not true.
I fully agree, and I'll be very quick because I know that it's not a long session, but sometimes you need to listen to the words that people say as well. And so I've been profusely apologizing to my wife over the past period of time to sort of say that I'm really sorry that you're having to do both kids, bedtime, etc. She's like, it's fine. I'm having a nice time. And in my head, I'm like, no, you're not. It's hard. And she's like, no, I am. I'm fine. And so listening to the words that people say, rather than just freaking putting it on yourself all the time is important.
Creating the madness that doesn't exist.
Totally.
So I do know the answer to this question, and you've referred back to it, but talk to us about the time when you didn't slow down enough and what happened.
There are so many, but the moment that reset my relationship with pace and drive was post-COVID, where one day I couldn't get out of bed, my brain broke, and nothing happened between my ears, and it was 6 weeks before I was able to walk to the end of the road, and it was a proper breakdown. And I actually haven't talked about it for ages. It's kind of weird, struggling to find the language for something that I used to I think coming out of that, I was very motivated by a mental health mission, and did a lot of writing about it. Any podcast was an opportunity because I felt it was so important to say to people, this is real. This actually happens. I did not think that was going to happen to me. I didn't think, and I just came off the phone with someone who was going through exactly the same thing but has none of the language for it. I didn't realise that you could break your brain in the same way you can break a bone in your body, and that the only way to fix it is extreme rest, because if you break your ankle, you cannot walk on it. If you break your brain, you cannot think. It's medical. And I had no frame of reference for it. I had no language. And I put myself back together bit by bit with some help of some incredible people around me. And then put some boundaries in place that are pretty well held still. I do waver on them sometimes, and I have to be careful. My partner would be like, sorry, are you saying you don't ever have wobbles? Do you need to honour him in this? And he's like, So there are definitely moments where it gets too much, but I am so much more in control than I was.
And what can you tell us about some of those boundaries?
Yeah, sleep, absolute prerequisite. I stop setting an alarm and I say to Alexa, wake me up in 8 hours time.
Right.
And if that means I don't show up to the gym, if that means I'm late for my call, this was when insomnia was really bad. It was at the moment where I thought I was falling asleep, that's when I got up. And that was first. And that's Joe's point on prioritisation. For me, that's the number one. I've just put my child through the most aggressive sleep training program I could find, because there was no way that I could trust that my mental health would hold up if I went through sustained sleep deprivation. So that's number one. Then the second is my well-being. So exercise goes in my diary before anything else. And again, if that means this morning, I haven't done any work before now because I had to go for a run. I did have to go for a run. That's how I see it. I was going to check myself on my language and say I had a choice to, but actually no, I'm kind of proud that I don't think that's a choice. In my head, I had to do that because that's what is going to mean that I can handle the pressure that the rest of my life demands on me. I don't really drink because that spikes my paranoia. Those are the big things. I think the big foundations are all about self-care, but not that I mask self-care. I am terrible at the bath salts. My self-care is CrossFit and some
sleep,
sleep, and then a pot of tea and a massive to-do list.
Great.
That's what gets me in a good place.
And when you look at the Someone was saying to me the other day that often we focus on the bits on the to-do list that we haven't done. So just another thing to add to your well-being is to really celebrate all the bits that you have done. Maybe have a done list rather than a to-do list.
I have a prioritisation coach.
Oh,
Every
wow.
Monday morning, I start my working week with half an hour with my prioritisation coach, who's called Sarah, who is phenomenal.
Wow.
And we start with what went really well last week. And so I'm always really grounding myself in that, like what did get done, what is going well, and then like, okay, what did I want to do in these 3 months? How am I tracking against that?
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you, Joe. I don't know if you want to talk to us about a moment or moments or your same experiences of not looking after yourself and what happens.
It was interesting earlier that you sort of mentioned catastrophization, because I actually think that's probably one of the things I really struggled with for a long time, and actually was only released from sort of last year, really, through a round of therapy. And I think there was something around, I guess the context is I've always wanted to grow a business. I've always wanted to be a business owner. I thought The Apprentice was my inspiration for wanting to start a business before I realised it was horrific. But it was enough to sort of motivate me to sort of like say that one day I want to do this. And I realised that over the past 10 years, that's long I've been running my business now, that there was a very straight line between my identity, the possibility of the business failing, and then my family ending up immediately under a bridge.
Yeah.
And you know, that being like a thing, you know, that existed. And it was just an interesting thing. So going through the therapy moment last year, I had a really great therapist who sort of had one foot in business, one foot in therapist. And he literally just said, well, what if it does? You know, what if it does? It was literally an hour conversation sort of exploring that. And by the end it was like, well, you're probably not going to die. You know, if your business dies, you're not going to end up under a bridge, you know, because you
get a job.
You get a job, probably. I don't know.
Yeah, I reckon someone would hire you.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
Say
Well, maybe, I don't know, you know, genuinely, that's sort of the type of stuff I would have worried about.
We'll do a handshake upstairs.
Okay.
No. You hire me and I'll hire you.
Okay. Done deal.
No one's under a bridge.
And being released from that was a huge moment. There's a second thing which I think is important in the context of this conversation, which is a quote that was lent to me while I was at sort of the lowest point in my sort of depression sort of journey, which was, it's hard to do the work when you're on the floor. And I love, for example, you sort of gave yourself the space. I know that it might not even been a conscious choice. It might, you know, but to sort of say, I'm going to take 6 weeks. Again, maybe not as an outright statement, but just to do that, to allow yourself that is fantastic. And I had an experience where I was speaking with this guy and he said, it's hard to do the work when you're on the floor, which prompted me to go and get medicated for depression stuff, which gave me the space to be able to start doing the work, which got me, you know, to a better place. But like, there's a forgiveness that you can give yourself and a taboo that needs to be broken down. Just like sometimes you just need a helping hand. It doesn't have to be medication. It could be a person. It can be a space. It can be a break or whatever it is. But like, you know, chances are not many people are ending up under a bridge, you know, if all this happens, you know. So time is something you can allow yourself, but also help is something you can allow yourself. And so that was how I found help, and that was great.
Interesting, even that you knew the bridge thing, like you even saw that's what it was, or was it that the therapist elicited that from you?
Oh, you know, I swear, being an adult, part of being an adult is like knowing how you feel now, knowing how you could possibly feel in the future, but also acknowledging that you feel shit right now. In the same version as knowing the thing which you believe is completely crackers, but still feeling that thing. Yeah. And not really being able to do anything about it.
Yeah.
I knew that a version of Under the Bridge was a bit crackers, but it still haunted me.
It just, that catastrophization though drives a lot of behaviour, and people aren't even listening to, I would say, watching the video. So I've always talk about somebody I know who wouldn't leave their phone at home to go for a walk. And it literally took me about 45 minutes to unravel what was the feeling was caused by, and it was the knock-on effect of not answering the phone and losing her reputation and blah blah, and eventually lose her job, eventually lose her house, and it's on the streets.
Totally.
And so that that's a long walk,
Totally.
but if the feeling is immediate and it's there and you're not even identifying the feeling, you're just sitting in the fear and the fear's driving the behaviour.
But this is the thing which actually gets me really angry about the narratives that sort of surround us around the world right now, is that there are certain people who seem to take joy in sort of saying you are fucked.
Yeah.
And that as an unrelenting message that is in your brain, that has been fed through social media feeds or whatever it is. This sort of Tom Goodwin called it change porn. Everything is changing and there's nothing you can do about it, etc. You are going to be the victim of these circumstances rather than anything else.
It's got really loud at the moment.
Yeah, it's rough.
It's really, really rough. And I actually feel really that I haven't yet had the conversation with anyone about how bad it is and how and I don't know how widespread the impact is yet. Like, I feel quite isolated. It's definitely within my team, in that I am really quite worried about our future as a business, and I don't think they are, and I really don't want them to be, because I don't think that worry is real. So I don't
if you're
think it's
listening,
helpful.
don't worry.
It's probably okay.
Yeah.
No, well, if they're listening by this point because of this conversation, I will have spoken to them about it. But I don't think it's helpful for me to go into a leadership meeting and go, well, we're fucked, aren't we?
Yeah.
Like, that's not constructive. And so I think I'm bottling it and kind of doom scrolling this, like, comment Claude to have all your world problems solved. This white paper is going to change everything. I'm doom scrolling this stuff, feeling more and more strung out about it, not really with anywhere to take that feeling, and then feeling like if you start talking about it, it's like actually just spreading the damnation.
What's interesting as part of it, I fully resonate, is another great conversation of the day is the gap between perception and reality to a certain extent. It's a trivial example. The other day I went to Great Yarmouth. I took my daughter to the beach, and I ended up getting a parking fine because the ticket machine only accepted coins, and it was on some random field. Yeah. And how long has Ringo been out for? Yeah. Frickin' years. How long has card been out for? How long has contactless been out for? The world doesn't move at the same pace, and we fill our brains with people trying to be first to say something to get attention or whatever it may be, and we allow it to bring it into our psyche, which isn't crazy, because that's exactly what it's there to do. That's what it's engineered to do. But this affects our emotions. This is the whole premise of what you speak about, right? And it's the hardness of slowing the fuck down is doing it all the time, right? Because in your conscious moments where you sit down and you go, okay, box breathing, or I've seen this thing, let me choose an emotion to associate with this and make a choice off the back of it. If you're having to do that 1,200 times a day based on 1,200 pieces of content, etc., that's quite a difficult place to be in. And so it's tricky, it's unrelenting,
it's a muscle.
Totally.
It's a muscle that eventually you don't have to try so hard in those 1,200 moments a day, because you snap into, I'm not being present. I'm imagining I'm under the bridge. It's not real.
Absolutely.
And I still do it. I would tell the story of when the dog barked and I thought Danny had died. I connected those two things. Wouldn't it be weird if she barked at the moment that he died? And it was 3:30 in the morning, and I literally went to, what do I wear for the funeral? And then I suddenly went, I'm doing it again. But it is a muscle, and you know that if you do it enough, you just stay present. If you read The Power of Now, one of the things I probably talk about in every podcast is just that metacognition of mind and brain, and having the conversations of what I'm thinking, what I'm really thinking, and that perception versus reality. Remember, our unconscious minds don't know the difference. They're just, whatever they believe to be true is what they will feel. So that's why you've got to constantly sort of interrupt the cycle, and it's not easy.
No, it's brutal.
Really want to ask you both about the moment. I knew all the questions wouldn't happen, but the moment that you decided to jump out of your jobs and to run your own business. Because I think there's a lot of people listening who are, listening to the fear, feeling the fear, and thinking, do I jump off? Do I stay? A lot of people are unhappy, but feel that they have to stay where they are because they're afraid that, all they hear is the millions and millions of, jobs and so what was the moment, and what can you share about making that decision to jump out and do your own thing?
Yeah.
So I'll frame this as experience rather than advice, because I'm not sure it's the best thing to do. So I started running the marketing meetup on the side in the evenings and weekends while I still had my job as a marketing manager in an agency. It was something that was solving my own problem of being shy and quiet and wanting somewhere kind. And so I just kind of did it and ran the first event and ran the second one and third, etc. It grew to a point where I think I was still running 6 events per month while I was still doing my job. And there came a moment where I asked my boss, can I go part-time? And he said no. And he said, you need to choose, basically. I'm so freaking grateful for him.
Boss.
Yeah, no, seriously. It was like, he was an entrepreneurial person himself. He'd sort of start businesses, and he said, look, you either need to be in or you need to be out. And the lifting off point for me, so I was 26 at this point or something like that. And so I knew that I was making 30k from TMM. That was revenue, not even profit. But that was enough to match my salary at the time. And so it was like, fine, And I think what's interesting for me is like my reflection on starting TMM and being able to take it full time is that, like, you hear the stories of everyone doing their thing, and then you go, well, why can't I do that thing? I'm not sure that I could start TMM today and it be the same business that it would be, sort of in that same period of time. Today I have kids, I have a mortgage, etc., etc. So that lifting off point is really quite different. At the time, small mortgage, no kids, very few responsibilities, could have a go. And so the reason why I started this by saying I'll frame it as experience, not advice, is like, don't listen to me. Like, I mean, you need to make the decision based on your own stuff. What I can say is there is a lovely life that can be lived. It takes a lot of hard work, and like, people keep correcting me when I sort of say we're lucky, and they go, you've worked really hard, and like, we have worked really hard, but like, there is that life there, but like, you need to make the decisions based on the factors in your life, really. Would be my general reflections about that sort of stuff.
And if it's what you love, and if it's your purpose, and if there's a way to do it, don't wait.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff sort of starts with like a thing, right? Just like listing an event on meetup.com.
Yeah.
Like, that was the start of TMM. It wasn't like grand illusions of 6 continents and 250 events.
Which is what you have now.
Yes.
That is amazing. And how many members?
I don't know. It depends how you define it. I mean, every community will always put a number on things. It's about 250,000 social followers.
Wow.
50,000 meaningful in the community. So.
Amazing. I have no right, but I do feel like a proud mum.
Honestly, I freaking love you so much. You are like the most present, soulful, like, just the way you do eye contact is incredible. Like, and so like, I know that when we did the Marketing Academy, I ended up writing a letter, and I don't even know if you mentored me or not. But what I do know is that, like, just your presence alone is meaningful. Like, you look at people in the eye, and that really means something. So
thank you, Jay. Make me emotional.
I feel like now anything I say is like getting in the middle of this loving.
I love you too. I'm also proud
really
of you.
You're great too, Lottie.
Sorry, tell us about, because it's a similar story, isn't it?
Yeah, that's kind of why I was keen to have. I kind of was like, I thought there'd be quite a lot of parallels. So I was quite keen to Joe to answer that question first. When I was at the Marketing Academy, I don't remember whether someone told me this or I said this, but my like proverb as I left was to be someone who's up to something. And I think that's the only advice I ever give when someone says to me, like, I want to do my own thing, is like, well, just start doing that. And it doesn't need to be everything. It can just be a thing. And I thought that really reminded me of that, hearing Joe tell his story, which is like, you start a thing, and it sounded like Joe was a bit more intentional about where his was going. I was in a job running marketing events, not because I was shy, I was quite the opposite, but because I was really lost, because being a high achiever was my thing. I'd never not succeeded at stuff, and I was really not succeeding at being a startup marketing manager, and I needed help just to get me better at my job. And I learn, because I'm really extroverted, I learn through other people, and so it was just a mechanic to get me better at my job. Then I moved abroad with my ex-partner, and we went to Delhi, and I was at my kitchen table in India with like free reign to start the business I always wanted to start. You know, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, a bit like you. I kind of wanted to build something, no idea what that was going to be. And I had, you know, we'd negotiated this big package, which meant I was on the paperwork as the trailing spouse. It's not a position I hold comfortably. And I started trying to work out what this business was going to be. And in the meanwhile, my WhatsApp was always going with events, and people kept saying, can I, when's the next dinner? When's the next meetup? And I was like, well, I'm not here. There isn't one. And so I started kind of doing it from there, just because I thought I should keep going. And then as this like business plan Word document remained empty, it got more and more silly to not put a bit more effort into the thing that I was needed for. And I was doing tons of freelance stuff, which is where Brand Hackers, which is kind of my bigger business at the moment, came from. So it's all very organic. So I didn't have a clear moment where I said, I'm going to stop this and do this. Like Joe, I had like an external factor that created space or a decision to like build some change. But it was never, there was never a jump. The jump was, people say it was so brave, and I don't think any decision I made was brave. I think the opposite of that would have been stupid. It always felt like the logical thing.
Yeah.
And only quite recently, you know, in the last couple of years, did I really stop and go, right, well, where are we going? Like, it very much has been the thing after it, the thing in front of me. And I think that's important. I think we get told that starting a business is like black or white, and it's this huge life change, which my experience wasn't. We get told that it's really high risk. Mine was not high risk at all. I've made a little bit of profit every month since I started. There's never been a big financial moment of, you know, boldness, and that's not something I would ever be able to stomach. And yeah, I think my journey's just been quite different to what we're told entrepreneurship is about.
Yeah.
And I sort of want to paint a picture of a more organic, not easier, less highly strung.
Less risk, less high risk. Yeah, I'm the same. I came out of here and I was like, oh, I'll do a bit of consulting, and then hang on, there's a gap here because people think brand is just external, and there's a gap. We need to find a way to connect it. Then suddenly Slow the Fuck Down happens. I mean, I'm still working it out. And that's another thing, I think. Not only are you told set up a business is really scary, it isn't. But also at school, you're told, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm still fucking working that out.
Yeah.
You know, so just as you grow up and you meet people and you experience things and go, well, that feels good, follow that. You know, follow your nose and look where it'll lead you. We've talked about a lot of these questions. One question for you, Joe, is about what you guys both do, this thing about kindness and supportiveness. There's definitely this culture of comparison piece that is very much exacerbated by the scrolling. How do you feel, you know, do you think the industry is getting better at supporting each other? Do you feel like that culture of comparison is creating some issues with toxicity? What are you hearing in your community?
I live in a fabulous bubble where people have opted into a messaging about being positively lovely. And so I probably, I'll speak to my bubble.
Yeah.
Which may not be true, but I think often people forget that 99.99% of people are generally being good or neutral 99.999% of the time. And so I actually think that's far more about human nature than it is like the industry at large. And so I think maybe less about the industry, but more just about how we consume those stories about how the 0.01 are being bad or horrible or whatever. They are elevated, they are put in our feed, they are shocking. We do pay more attention to those things. And so we're probably exposed to those things a little bit more. But I think the industry is probably as good or as bad as it's ever been in lots of ways. And, you know, mirroring general society, you know, in the progressions that society has made in terms of everything there. But for the most part, I think humans are generally great. And generally speaking, the industry is great. And like, you know, come to either of our events and you'll just be surrounded by blooming nice people, you know, who just want to get by. I think most people just want to get by.
Yeah.
You know, we recently went through an application process of like, for a commercial director at TMM. And the first question we ask is, what's your favorite thing in the world? And, you know, 90% of the answers were my family. Like, you know, that's where most people are at, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, we have ours and we have then a circle beyond and a circle beyond. And we just want to have a nice time with the people we love and make the best decisions we can with the data that we've got at the time.
100%.
I think generally things are all right, but we're just not surfacing those things quite as often.
I agree. I think humans are great, and I know I'm an optimist, but generally people are good people, and you know, you hear the thing is that they over-index the negativity in the news for whatever reason, so the fear breeds the ability to control and all those narratives. But generally, if you think about, and I say to my kids all the time, tell me one person you know who's evil that you've ever met in your life. No one ever. Everyone people are fundamentally good, and the truth will out, and reform will not win. I had a row with a cab driver last night. I was a bottle and a half down, and he said something, and I thought, oh God, he's a reform voter. And I spent about 45 minutes in the back of that cab. By the end, he'd sort of said, I got him to a place where he was like, well, if there's an alternative, I'll do it.
That's
right.
one cab driver at a time.
Well, you know, fair play. I mean, fair play to someone for listening.
Yeah, he was. I was very gentle with him as well.
Nice.
Because I kept saying things like, I fundamentally believe that you are a good person, and what I'm hearing is that you're not, you know. and
this man didn't know who he picked up.
And I said, so tell me about how you feel about the promises that he made at Brexit. Like, what was your experience of that? Anyway, I unpicked it and got him in a corner. Anyway, we digress.
I completely agree with Joe that everyone, with both of what you're saying, like people are lovely. There are an incredibly small number of people who, for mental health reasons, are not well intended, and I genuinely believe that all people are good.
Running America.
For the aforementioned
right.
camp,
okay,
yes.
Right, yes,
like, you know, there are people who are not okay, and that's a different thing.
Is there a butt coming?
Well, Joe and I are in the eye, you know, to ask us, we kind of have put ourselves, we've built bubbles around us. Like our force shields are quite strong. We've spent careers isolating ourselves. What I think is really interesting is how the exception for everyone is their manager. So I do a lot of coaching mid-career marketers about how they move into leadership roles. That's kind of a real hot topic of mine. I'm really passionate about it. And everyone will say, all people are good, but my old boss was toxic. And I'm like, no, something's up here. Like, there are not that few genuine dictators and that many toxic managers. And I think there's an insecurity that drives perception that people who you feel have you by puppet strings are out to get you or are not well intended. And I'm just on a bit of a life mission to say I don't think many managers are toxic. In fact, I'd go as far to say very few are. And there are examples of bullies in the workplace. It's not negating that there are times where it's really real. But it's just to say a lot of the time, they've got their own stuff going on. They've got a really challenging agenda. They are trying to be kind, and it is a breakdown in communication, or it is a breakdown in expectation, or there's something else going on that's making that relationship feel different. And so I don't see a lot of comparison issues, but I see a lot of people come to our world with a narrative that like someone else is to blame for how they're feeling. And I don't think that necessarily serves us.
I agree. And I have to say, and I'm going to say it live on the podcast, both of you, I need to come to your communities and do controlling the controllables, because talking about that at the moment is really relevant with all the noise and all the pressure and all the negativity. How can you own your shit? You know, how can you take, what are the things you can change? Where are the boundaries? You can't change other people. So if you have got a boss and your filter is, you know, and often I agree, I'm in a lot of clients I'm working with, I'm trying to sort of minimize the force of a lot of negativity that's coming at them. But yes, those people, and what we do is do a thing. There's an exercise called perceptual positions, and it's saying what's going on for them.
Yeah.
Let's get inside their shoes and let's work out the pressure that person is under and why they're behaving like that. Do we even know anything about their history or what's going on for them? And then how can we calm that noise down? Because we can't change them by telling them, but we can change how we're responding to them. It's very, very impactful. And controlling the controllables is something we talk about a lot on the podcast. It's like, you know, that the Venn diagram of what matters, my family, what are the priorities, and then what can you control, and you just focus on the intersection in the middle. And a lot of people are wasting time not even in the diagram. They're talking, wasting energy on worrying about things they can't control. So the swirl is real. So controlling it is really important.
The other context I think we should just like nod to is like, we can joke that we're not going to be under a bridge because we will annoy each other. And I mean that, like, we will be fine. And I trust that Joe and I have done an awful lot of networking, like frankly a comic amount of turning up to things to put ourselves in a position where I do think we would be okay. But there are a lot of people right now who are not. And the job market is horrendous, and it's been horrendous for a really long time. I think that's the other thing, is like, we're kind of talking like there was that post-COVID wonder day where everyone thought e-commerce was going to take over the world and everyone was hiring marketers. And after that, it's been pretty bleak. And everyone says to me, you know, I had really recently had a conversation with someone who said like, well, that's really hard in the context of the job market right now. And I thought, no, that's really hard, full stop, because this isn't just the context of the job market right now. It's just the new normal. We are living in a world where cost of living is a joke and where there are not enough jobs. And there's a kind of skills piece going on. There might be some mismatch and retraining that's needed. And there's this all narrative that's about to get a lot worse. And a lot of that is negative hot air. Please get off my feed. Some of that is real and exciting and not made up and not constructive for us to say it's all just doom, like fear mongering. Like, there is change and that's cool and that's okay, and we can be positive about that. We don't need to. There has to be a space where we don't get riddled with anxiety about that, and we say, yeah, cool, I'm up for that, and I'll do some upskilling, and Joe and I run businesses that can help you do that, and that's relaxed, and there's loads of tools, and great, let's move forward. And I just think we need to be super careful of like podcasters talking to podcasters about how everything's going to be okay. When there's a lot of people out there who are like,
I agree, really, really, Shannon. And I'm aware of, you know, people who are going through that. Who
I just, when you were saying control the controllables, I was thinking like, absolutely. But I've had enough conversations in the corner of sessions we've run where someone said, yes, but I cannot get paid.
And so even in that situation, so I would talk about cause and effect, right? So if you're in effect, this is really hard. This is not my doing, and this is really fucking hard. And that's okay to sit in that bit. But at some point, we all have to get into cause, which is one, what have I done to get me in this situation? Because we all are 100% responsible for everything that happens to us, even if there's a million horrendous things happening around us. Number two, what am I learning? And number three, what options are available to me now? And that's what controlling the controllables is. It's not saying, don't listen to all the noise, focus on this. It's saying, how can you empower yourself? How can you help yourself? Where are the bits you can touch and influence? Let's focus on that. What options you can't, let's get you unstuck. So it is acknowledge that. And I get it is things are tough. There's no denying it. And there are a lot of people listening to this podcast who are struggling right now. And my last question for you both is just, what's the big thing we want people, whether they're struggling or not, you know, how do we navigate this challenging time? It probably is how do we navigate the rest of our lives? What's the one takeaway you want people to hear? Joe, I'll start with you. It's hard. There's been a lot. There's gold dust in this.
Yeah. I don't like the mindset which has helped me previously is not actually something we touched upon in this session, but hopefully it's vaguely useful in the sense that I remember when I was a kid, looking up at the stars with my dad in holiday in France. I was asking him lots of big questions about the universe, planets, all that sort of stuff. And he was answering admirably for quite a long time. But he went, eventually, he sort of said, you know, Joe, sometimes you just got to do the best you can in the world you got. And I don't know why, but, you know, in the spirit of some of the conversation today, then, you know, sometimes you just got to do the best you can in the world you got is, you know, to make your world small so you can make it big again is all right, you know, and most of us are just trying to get by. Yeah. You're probably doing all right.
You're doing all right. I say that to my kids all the time. I don't give two shits what marks you get. Just do your best. And if you're doing your best and you're okay at the same time as doing your best, that's gravy. Then we're all good.
Everything's freaking made up anyway, isn't it? So
yeah. Reality is a construct. You heard it here first. Lottie, what's your one takeaway?
I think what's quite cool hearing Joe and I tell like very parallel stories is that both of us at quite similar times started quite similar things, and we've built quite different outcomes to exactly the same problem. And that's because back then there were no options. Neither of us, you know, I can speak for myself. I didn't do this because I was particularly passionate about building a marketing community. I wanted a community and there wasn't one. So I did something about it. I think that's really cool that now there are so many options. And I don't, you know, when Joe and I last caught up, which was an embarrassingly long time ago, the conversation was, I really don't care what community you were in, so long as you were not on your own. And I think it's really exciting that there's like a whole load of options. Yeah. And I think, my message is just like, find that.
Yeah,
find your tribe, find your connection, find someone who's going through something similar to you, because that I think is a rewarding process, whether that's being out of a job and finding this job market completely unbearable, whether that's like being scaremongered by AI, whether that's feeling like a bit inadequate in your role, whether that's like actually just feeling okay. And feeling okay and trying to sustain that okay. I think community is really important to being a happy, fulfilled human. And I'm chuffed that there are marketing communities now that mean that if you're in this industry, you don't have to do it on your own.
I agree. I don't know if you ever watched that Blue Zone documentary. And connection and community. So all the places in the world where their people live longer and healthier, they're all community based.
Nice. We should put that on our landing pages. We'll make you live longer.
There you go. That's a that's a price guarantee. Or your money back.
Sponsored by Emma.
Or your money back, because if you die, we'll give your money back. Oops, you're done. Sorry. Terrible way to end the podcast. But it has been absolutely brilliant. Honestly, you guys, it's been a thing of beauty. I'm so glad I brought you together.
Thank you for having us.
And you guys need to collaborate. And if you're listening and you are feeling alone, there are places that you can go. There's so many. There's Marketing Society. I mean, you could join the academy. There's so many places where you can find your tribe. At my 50th birthday, and it was quite a long time ago, but at my 50th birthday, I did a 5 things I've learned in 50 years. And the number one thing was find your tribe. Find your tribe and stick to them. So thank you for creating those tribes. Thank you for being here. Everyone who's been listening and watching, thank you. This has been Slow the Fuck Down. Thank you for listening to the Slow the Fuck Down podcast with Glow London and The Drum. If you found this episode interesting and insightful, please help us spread the word by giving us a follow or sharing it with your friends. And if you feel inclined to give us a quick review, that would be awesome. Let's all do what we can to help the world slow the fuck down.